A doutora Jane Goodall, britânica de 89 anos, é um dos maiores ícones da conservação ambiental no mundo. Conhecida principalmente pelo seu trabalho como primatóloga e por realizar estudos que revolucionaram a compreensão da ciência sobre os chimpanzés, ela se tornou uma voz pela defesa do meio ambiente. E hoje inspira milhares de pessoas a tomarem a decisão de deixar um impacto positivo no planeta. No dia 30 de outubro de 2023, Jane esteve em São Paulo para uma palestra no Nibis Cultural sobre o seu trabalho, que se mistura à dedicação de uma vida à proteção da natureza. No mesmo dia, ela participou de um encontro com jornalistas, onde esta entrevista foi gravada. A entrevista foi feita em inglês. Algumas das perguntas foram feitas por mim, outras foram feitas por outros jornalistas que estavam na coletiva. A tradução das perguntas fica por minha conta, e as que foram feitas por mim têm a minha voz de fundo. Então, vamos ouvir Jane Goodall.
So maybe I should start off by just saying briefly, why I'm here. And I think you probably all have heard of the Jane Goodall Institute. And the Jane Goodall Institute is about animals and the environment and human beings trying to make the world a better place. And there's now 26 Jane Goodall Institutes in different parts of the world. They all have the same mission. And in addition to the Jane Goodall Institute, which is studying chimpanzees and conserving the environment, we have our program for young people, Roots and Shoots, which began in 1991, is now in approximately 70 countries around the world, and that is about young people they themselves choosing projects to make this a better world. But between them, in a group, they choose one project to help people, one to help animals, and one to help the environment. And the main message is that every single individual on the planet makes a difference every single day, and most of us can choose what sort of difference we make. So in addition to that, to studying chimpanzees in 7 different African countries, working to improve the lives of the people living in and around the forest. And we also have sanctuaries where we put chimpanzees rescued from the illegal wildlife trade or the bushmeat trade. So the reason that I am traveling around the world is to try and give people some hope that we are destroying the planet very fast, but I believe there's still a window of time. But unless we get together and take action, then it will be too late. And so as I'm going to be 90 in a couple of months, I have to speed up because I've got less time left to try and get around the planet. So that's why I'm here. And whilst here, I've had the opportunity to see the destruction of the river in the Amazon, Brazilian Amazon, thanks to illegal gold mining. And of course I know about the destruction of the rainforest for agribusiness, growing soy, and also for the cattle grazing. So that's why I'm here and what I do. So now it's your questions.
As you mentioned,
A primeira pergunta foi sobre esperança, sobre como ela, a Jane, mantém a esperança viva dentro dela e como ela age para alimentar essa esperança em outras pessoas, principalmente em um mundo com tantos problemas, guerras e desigualdades sociais.
The problem is that people tend to look at all the problems of the world and they're massive, and you cannot help but feel depressed if you look at what's happening in the world, because it's grim. But when people come to me and say, well, they've given up because there's too many problems, I always say, well, we can't solve the problems of the world, but what about in your community? Is there something you can do there? And like collecting litter or lobbying for something, go back to your community, find some friends to work with you, and then you'll find that you are making a difference in your little place. And so that inspires you to do more, and that inspires other people to join you. And like if you're part of the Jane Goodall Institute, you know this is happening in 26 other countries. And if you're part of Roots and Shoots, you know it's happening in 70 other countries. So then that gives you some hope. But it's a qualified hope. It's hope if we take action.
Na sequência, uma colega perguntou a Jane sobre o Roots and Shoots no Brasil.
This is the first time I've come to try. We do have a couple of groups in Brazil, somewhere, or we did. And it will start in the schools where it's relatively easy. They can communicate with each other. And it's really, really important for it to spread through Brazil. And I was just in the Amazonian forest, the Brazilian Amazon, where the indigenous people are going to start Roots and Shoots, which is also very, very important.
A terceira pergunta foi um pedido de comparação entre primatas e seres humanos, sobre o que nós, humanos, podemos aprender com o modo de vida dos primatas.
What primates can teach us? Well, first of all, they live sustainably and we don't. This is our big problem. So primates live sustainably, by and large. Not all animals do, but primates do. They do not overpopulate. They space out the births nicely. And if I take chimpanzees that I know most about, they're like when they're feeding, they'll very often squeeze a fruit to see if it's right, and if it's not, they leave it on the tree. Unlike monkeys who just pick it, bite it, and drop it. So chimpanzees are beginning to well, they don't understand about sustainability, but they're living that way. And they only have one child every 5 years. So a female's unlikely to have more than 4 in her lifetime. So they're not overpopulating the planet. And they're so like us that they can be altruistic, they can reassure each other, they can pat one another if another is scared, but sadly, like us, they also have a dark and aggressive side. They're capable of killing each other, and when it's an inter-community conflict, or sometimes almost like a war. So what we learn is that we're not that different from the rest of the animal kingdom, but we do learn how are we different. We've developed this way of speaking, this spoken language, so we can get together to discuss problems. We can teach children about things that are not present, share ideas, and I think that has led to this explosive development of our brain. So we are capable of saving the planet. We have not used our brains wisely. We've developed some very bad behaviors, the destruction of the Amazon forest across Latin America is just one example. Same in Africa, destroying the forests there.
Depois, eu quis saber a opinião de Jane sobre o que ficou de lição para a sociedade com a pandemia de Covid-19. No início da pandemia, muito se falou sobre o aprendizado que teríamos com a reação do planeta aos abusos causados pela ação humana, mas, passada a crise, nada parece ter mudado. Então, perguntei a Jane se ela vê algum aprendizado ou não para as pessoas em todo esse processo.
Well, it's very unfortunate we seem not to have learned many lessons from the pandemic. Everybody thought we would. Everybody was thrilled because for a little while all the cities were silent and you could hear the birds singing, and people thought, this will teach us that we need to live more in harmony with nature. But unfortunately, people began to get back to the same old way of living, the same kind of paying homage to money, living in such a way as to continue to destroy the planet, making money being the most important thing rather than thinking of future generations. So the pandemic should have taught us that the way we're treating animals in the natural world is extremely dangerous. And we've had several epidemics. We've had bird flu. Asian bird flu is still a threat. And it's our treatment of animals in so many cases that makes opportunities for new strains of virus to arrive. So that with this particular pandemic, with the corona, with the COVID-19, isn't it? COVID-19, that started when one pathogen from one animal jumped into one human, bonded with a cell, and made COVID-19. And this can happen again, and scientists are warning us that the next pandemic can be even worse. It was hard enough to find a vaccine for this one. We haven't defeated it. People are still getting COVID. I had an email this morning from someone who said, I've got COVID really badly and I feel terrible. So we really should learn from it that we should not go out and capture animals from the wild and sell them as bushmeat or sell them as pets or sell them for medical research. Because if we do it at our peril.
Antes de chegar em São Paulo, Jane foi a Brasília e se encontrou com a ministra do Meio Ambiente e Mudança do Clima, Marina Silva. Uma colega perguntou a Jane sobre como foi o encontro e, na sequência, emendou uma pergunta sobre a importância do papel dela como cientista.
Let me start with the second. I had a fantastic meeting with Marina Silva. I had met her before, and we both remembered that previous meeting. We had a long discussion about protecting the environment, the need to do something about the illegal gold mining and the intensive farming. So that was great. My role as a scientist, I'm not so sure whether it's as a scientist or as a human being that's had the most impact. But for example, when I first went to university, after I'd been with the chimps 2 years, and I began talking about them by name, personality, mind, and emotion, I was told that those were unique to humans and I shouldn't do it, I should number them. And I couldn't talk about those qualities because they were unique to us. But I'd already been taught by my dog that wasn't true when I was a child. So I just quietly went on talking about chimpanzees the way they are, because I'm not one to confront, I'm one to lead by example. And so gradually the scientists, they began to accept, but there was no confrontation. And so I think that's one of the most important things that I like to look back on, that now more and more people are understanding that animals indeed are, share with us not just chimpanzees and primates, but many other kinds of animals as well. They're sentient beings. Even finding the intelligence in things like cockroaches and bumblebees. And of course this film, My Octopus Teacher, the incredible intelligence of the octopus. So it just leads to a whole new way of thinking about and respecting the other animals with whom we share the planet. We've got a long way to go. We've got to abolish factory farming, which is unbelievably cruel, because every cow, pig, chicken is a sentient being. Well, I think, for some bizarre reason, nothing to do with me, I've become a kind of iconic figure. And because of that, and because I am giving people hope, and without hope they don't take action, so people need to have hope. I just have to carry on and do more and more before I move on to wherever we go when we leave this planet. Hopefully I'll meet all my dear dead chimpanzee and dog friends somewhere when I die. But anyway, so I think that's the answer.
Por fim, perguntei a Jane se ela, como cientista, ainda tem uma grande dúvida ou uma pergunta específica que ela gostaria de ver sendo respondida pela ciência.
I want to know what happens when we die. That would be a real breakthrough. It is a big question. But for the rest, I don't know, scientists are asking all the questions. There's no one particular one that I feel that I need to know the answer on. Scientists are discovering the most extraordinary things, miles and miles and miles out in outer space, which is quite extraordinary what the human brain can do. So we ought to be using our human brain to make the world better instead of continuing to destroy it to make money. And some people are destroying the planet because they don't have any money and they're destroying it to survive, which is why alleviating poverty is one of the most important things that we have to do. The Jane Goodall Institute does just that with our program in Africa, giving better ways of making a living than cutting down the trees. So the forest is gradually growing back. And that will have to happen here as well.
O tempo foi curto, a conversa foi rápida, mas, no fundo, acho que nem todas as horas do mundo seriam suficientes para falar com a doutora Jane Goodall sobre os assuntos que atravessam a experiência dela na Terra. A questão central é internalizar a mensagem que ela se dedica a disseminar por onde passa. Cada um de nós pode escolher deixar um impacto positivo no planeta. Muito obrigada a quem nos ouviu até aqui. Quem assina a edição de áudio é o Edgar Maciel e um obrigada mais do que especial à minha avó, Lídia Ferraza, que representou a Jane Goodall em português. Para acompanhar todos os nossos conteúdos, siga o nosso Impacto no seu tocador de podcasts preferido e nas redes sociais. Até a próxima!